Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And the primordial white Blanc, however you want to say it in French, Blanc with a C, with a hard C on it, is now in the game. She has a voice actress, which means that she can be added, and they sure as hell did that very, very quickly. But she is part 3 of the second anniversary, technically. It's labeled part 3 banner, and she is pretty good. So let's go through her kit really fast. She is light because the game cannot go 2 weeks without having a light unit added in because someone will have a seizure over at Bandai Namco. She is magic, which fits in with the rest of the meta. She's on Visions of Coleus, Primal Demon, and yet another buff to the Fount of Wisdom team, which is crazy. I think that makes the Fount of Wisdom team probably one of the best teams in the game as far as unit composition is concerned, because every meta there's always a Fount of Wisdom unit, at least one, sometimes two, but every meta. And it was the very first meta, which is still a pretty good meta. Diablo maybe a bit power crept as far as protectors are concerned, but it's still a pretty good team. She uses a light fist, so if you happen to have a light daggerel, you can go ahead and yoink it off of him, or just make one, it really doesn't matter. But her skills, very interesting. She is a single target light magic nuker, 490%, goes up 1.5 times like normal. She is DPS because she doesn't have a secondary effect on the ult, so she is a sub DPS. She still is on the category. She's still going to get that 60% damage buff from Valentine, but she's not type advantage. So you're going to do less damage with Blanc inherently than you would with Violet. So that's take that as you will. Her first skill, quite a big skill, 80 points, increases all allies' weakness strike by 100%. 100. All right, that's the most weakness strike buff we've ever seen in the game thus far. We have, Swimsuit Shizu, who does 60%. We have the Vengeance Veldora doing 80%, but that's specific to certain teams. And now we have Blanc, who just gives everybody 100% extra weakness strike. So weakness strike, in case you don't know because you're a new player, only applies when you have A, type advantage over the enemy, or 2, B, if you fall underneath the category that gives that additional damage buff. So, currently we have Valentine, and she gives Visions of Coleus the extra 60% damage against wind. So if you are Visions of Coleus and you're against a wind enemy, you do weakness damage, which will then get enhanced by that 100% weakness strike. And, for reference, if you pick up, the old Millum that came out last month, if you're Wielder of Magic and you're fighting a fire enemy, you get that 6% buff, the weakness strike will apply, even if you're not a water unit. So that's how weakness strike works. But going back to her kit, she also has a secondary effect on that skill. Decreases all targets' synergy resistance by 50%, which is essentially the same as lowering crit resistance or lowering pierce resistance. The lower that is, the more your pierce attacks are going to do, the more your crits are going to do, the more your synergy is going to do, which again is what Lumi does, is she gives you guaranteed chance to hit that synergy rate, which is extra 16% damage or something like that, pulled from your supporting unit's attack stat. So she's giving a buff for weakness strike. She's reducing, it's a debuff against the enemy for synergy power resistance. So it's doing double duty right there. It's a very good skill because this is generic, right? As long as you have synergy rate, then you can benefit from that 50% debuff. And literally anybody can benefit from that weakness strike. It's not dependent on magic or physical or certain teams and categories. It's very generic, which is a very good skill. And then her second skill, she's essentially Summer Shizu, right? Because Shizu changes one alt orb into a blue. Warrior's Mind Rimuru changes one alt orb to a blue. The Hero 2.0, the Light Masked Hero, changes one alt orb into green. Well, Blanc says, y'all can go fuck yourselves, because she changes 3 alt orbs into blues. Not 1, not 2, but 3 alt orbs, which a lot of the times on a lot of stacking teams, by the time you get to turn 8 or whatever turn you're nuking, you have a lot of alts. And the more alts you have, the harder it is to send more blue orbs to get max points, to get max protection gauge, to get more stacks. Well, now Blanc says your entire front line, if you have alts, it doesn't matter. It straight up does not matter. Your entire front line now has a blue orb, which is very, very powerful, considering that we have multiple orb changers that you can put on that team. So if you have a front line and it's like turn 7, you have 3 alts and a green, a blue, and a red, or green, a blue, and an orange, then you instantly have 3 blues, and you have Violet, who's going to change those other 2 into blues, so you have a 6 hand of blues. It's such a good skill. And then she also gives a 10% gauge increase, because why not? That's what all of them do. So these skills, she is essentially the much better version of Summer Shizu, because if we check out Summer Shizu and what she does, and she's already a good unit, because she was very generic. She gives Weakness Strike for 2 turns. It's 2, not 1, but 60% right there. Not as powerful as 100. Doesn't have a secondary effect on it. Her second skill changes 1 alt to blue. Well, Blanc does 3 now. So you can think of this new Blanc as a much better version of Summer Shizu, who is not a bad unit. She's not that old. She's like a month and a half old. She just got power crept out of here. Like, out the front door, you've been dumped. Which, you know, I would... Sorry, Shizu lovers. I would dump Shizu for Blanc. That's just me. I like the white hairs and red eyes, okay? It's personal preference. Get over it. But she has a very good kit. Very generic kit. You may be limited to blue stacking teams, but, you know, only blue teams have enough skill points to really work around an 80-point buff. So it's like, yeah, she's supposed to be on there, no crap. Her Valor trait nerfs blues. Cool, whatever. It's not that great of a Valor trait, but it's not terrible. There's definitely worse. Her actual trait is she gives protection gauge every 2 turns, which is a very good trait because turn 2, you have Blanc. Turn 3, Violet gives you protection trait. So you have almost every turn covered as long as you have like the big 3 or something like that. So turn 1 you get protection gauge, turn 2 you have Blanc, turn 3 you have Violet. Very, very powerful. When you get her up to 112, she gets an extra 2 points on that, which is great. She gets extra 20% damage at 120, pretty typical. And then she needs Rimuru in this battle to get extra 8% synergy power. And she is a team buffer on the EX board. So she is most definitely a support unit, through and through. Just because she's single target, she has the capability to do damage, but she is not the primary focus. She's here to give more power to the true DPS, which still right now is Violet, because she has type advantage over the enemy, Hinata in the beatdown. So Blanc, overall, I would say is a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10, easily. What would I do to make her 10 out of 10? I don't actually know. To be fair, I would make her Valor trait better. 9.5. We'll go with 9.5. She is a very good character. However, that 0.5%, right? That half a number is because right now there's only one unit in the game that guarantees synergy rate, and that is the new Protector Valentine. If you do not have Valentine, then you will most likely, 98% of the time, miss out on this secondary effect right here, synergy resistance down. Because if you don't have synergy, then lowering their synergy resistance means nothing to you. So that is the reason why I would dock her down a point, or half a point. If this was something more generic, crit resistance, pierce resistance, I don't know, something that was generic across the board that didn't take another unit to do, or there was only more than one unit that could give it, then she would probably be a 10. But right now, she has limited viability at full potential, because Weakness Strike is generic. The alt change to 3 blues is generic across the board for any blue stacking team, and there's a lot of blue stacking teams. But synergy is only available on, well, 2 characters, right? The free-to-play Protector Rimuru and the premium summonable Valentine. And if you don't have the Valentine, which is, you know, the goal of the triple banner, right? Then you're going to have a difficult time taking her into higher content. So she will be future-proof, though, because eventually, somewhere down the line, next month, 2 months from now, we will have a unit that gives synergy rate as a skill, and then she will shoot back up and she'll be a 10 out of 10. Sure. That's fine. But right now, as I speak, as of recording this, like 2.5 hours after she freaking came out, she's really only good on one team. She's very, very good on that team. Very good on that team. But only on that one team. Every other team, she's pretty good. And that's not a diss against her. I'm not saying that she's mid everywhere else, right? You can still take the weakness strike. You can still take the alt swap to any other blue team, any stacking blue team. And I said there's a lot of them. But to get the full amount of power, you need that synergy rate. But her trait, her trait is a good trait. Every 2 turns. Well, the devs actually threw us a bone because they also gave us a character introduction quest where you get a free dupe of Blanc. This is the second free dupe that we've received for this meta, right? We got the first dupe, which was Lumi from Bingo. We're getting a free dupe of Blanc from the character introduction quest. It's a very easy quest. You just have to live 3 turns, and it's only 50k. And then you get a free dupe. You also get 10 anniversary coins, towards the shop. Always a thing. Plus 5 crystals for clearing it with everyone alive, which you will unless you're brand spanking new. So you already get her trait guaranteed as long as you pull the unit itself. You have to pull Blanc to be able to use the dupe. This is not a free copy of her and you can go about your day. You must pull her first before you can use this dupe. But once you do, you can immediately get her to level 104 and have access to that turn 2 protection trait, which is really, really nice. So her banner is a single unit banner, which I know a lot of people were asking and a lot of people were hoping that both her and Jean Primordial Yellow would be on the same banner, but not the case. So we pretty much know for certain at this point that next week, probably next Sunday, Primordial Yellow will come out, and she will be most likely an AoE damaging unit, because we don't have an AoE yet except for Rimuru, and he doesn't count. So just stay tuned for that. We have a week until that happens. But as far as story is concerned, we do have her character model in-game because of the Predator Battle. The Predator Battle story has part 13 right here, which, the story right now ends at 12, which now has the Primordials in it. So we have a character model in here for her. And if we take a look at the news, there's actually a few other things in here as well. So we have her banner, we have her ticket packs, we have the character introduction quest, which gives you the dupe. We have this interview with Jean, which is an original series from Fuse that's fully voiced, and we're gonna meet Jean and learn about her. I guess I don't know. That comes out in 2 days on the 8th, which is technically the 7th for me. So in 2 days' time, this will be out alongside a raid against her. So that is very, very interesting. We actually got a raid. Now, you're asking, what is a raid? I'll explain that in a different video because there's a few different things to talk about, and that's not really for this video. But overall, we know that we're getting Jean next week. That is a foregone conclusion. They're not going to drop Blanc without the other one. So, should you summon for Blanc? And that's a very, very easy question. Because if you have Lumi and you have Violet, then yes, you should summon for Blanc. You don't need Rimuru. I promise you don't need him. He's nice to have for maybe newer players. You don't need him. If you do not have Lumi, at minimum, do not summon for Blanc. Right? Because again, Blanc needs that synergy to access that second half of her first skill. And the only premium unit that does that is this Protector Valentine. So it's more important to get the Protector to be able to run the team under the correct leader skill before you get a support unit that needs the Protector to access all of her support capability. That makes sense. If you have Violet and you don't have these two, summon for Valentine. If you have all three, summon for Blanc. If you don't care about Blanc because you honestly don't care, then you can hold your crystals, wait for Jean next week, see what her kit is, make your decision. But in order to really make good use out of Blanc, you have to have Valentine off of this triple banner. So if you do not have Valentine, I implore you to summon for her first before summoning for Blanc. Because there are other units that give weakness damage, weakness strike. There are other units that do ult conversions, right? She is just a better version of those units. So she's not necessary, but she's very nice to have because she's a power crept version of those characters. But you need the Protector to activate all of her power. So the Protector is always more important as far as team comps are concerned. So if you have Valentine, you can summon for Blanc. If you don't have Valentine, don't summon for Blanc. And if you have everybody and you don't care, then do what you want. But that is my advice to all of you people. Her kit is very, very good, and it took me 15 minutes to say that. But that's it for me. Let me know how your summons went down below in the comments. I had to go to Pity for the first copy. Shock, surprise. Oh well. But let me know how your summons went. Did you get lucky? Did you get shafted like me? Let me know. But that's it from me. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.